talk to you about knives and knife safety. So getting a couple good knives and getting comfortable doing a couple basic chopping techniques are some of the most important things you can do to really get comfortable making delicious, healthy food in your kitchen. So first, let's talk about the different knives that you could get. What I'd encourage you to do is not to worry about getting those giant blocks of knives that have, 8, 10, 12 knives in them. You're not going to use the vast majority of those. If you're just starting out, just having a chef's knife like this and a paring knife, which just looks like a mini version of the chef's knife, is really all that you need. And if you find yourself cooking a lot and feeling like, oh, I could really use a better tool for this thing that's maybe a little bit more specialty that you do all the time, then at that point, then you would go out and get those additional knives or tools that you need. Try not to, fall prey to all the advertising for, little doodads and gadgets that just do one tiny thing, unless that's a tiny thing that you do a lot of, and it really makes your life easier. So I want to talk to you about the type of knife to get. So besides this being a chef's knife, this is a knife that has what we call a full tang. So I'll hold this up, but you can see that the metal really runs all the way through the knife. And the same thing is true of the paring knife. Full tang means that because you have that metal going all the way through the knife blade, that the weight is going to be more balanced. If you have a really inexpensive knife that just has metal in the blade and not in the handle, then it ends up being very heavy on the blade side. And if you're not doing a lot of cooking, it's not the end of the world, but if you are doing a lot, you can actually develop sore wrists and other things. It just isn't as comfortable and nice of an experience for you if you don't have a good knife. And good knives don't have to cost a lot of money. So these are nice knives. I cook a lot, but you can really buy any sort of restaurant quality knives, which can run from $8 to $20 for a knife for this type, and just a couple of dollars for for a paring knife, excuse me. And that would be a good starter set. So when I started culinary school, we got a big set of knives, a big roll with every kind of knife you can imagine, but it was a really inexpensive set. And even though that was more than 20 years now ago, as much as I hate to admit that, I still use all of those knives on a regular basis when I'm working with the things that they were intended for. But I did pretty quickly, as I became a chef, upgrade to a good set of knives. So these are Wusthof knives, just the brand I like. It feels good in my hand. There are lots of good knife brands. You don't have to go with these ones. And these are what we call an American style knife, so they're sharpened on both sides, so the blade is symmetrical on both sides. There's Asian style knives, like Global Knives, which is another common brand, where they're just sharp on one side, and one's not better or worse. It's just whatever your preference is. So if you can go to a friend's house and maybe try out a couple different ones before you get your own set, that's a really nice way to figure out what you like. I'd say 95% of what I chop can be chopped with these two knives, so that's really where you want to start. It's also nice if you have this tool called a steel. Most people erroneously think this is for sharpening your knife, but what this really does is it actually helps straighten out the edge. So you can imagine that if you had a microscope and you looked at the knife blade at a microscopic level, when you're doing lots of chopping, there'd be these little tiny microscopic bends and nicks in the knife, and this helps smooth those out. Actual sharpening happens with either something which we call a sharpening stone or a whetstone. And this is really, if you are confident and know how to sharpen knives the right way. I'm not going to demonstrate how to use that because most people don't do that, but it's something that you can certainly learn how to do if it's of interest. Then there's also different hand sharpeners. This is not automatic. This is one where you still have to run your knife through the sharpener, but it has different settings for the Asian knife, like I said, the Euro-American style, which are the ones I have, and there's a sharpening part and then a polishing part, so it really fine-tunes the edge. Each time you go to cook, you don't want to sharpen your knife. You'd wear down your knife if you did that. Chefs in restaurants might sharpen their knives professionally 3 times a year. A home cook could easily get by with just sharpening once a year, and that's fine. If you have farmers markets in your areas or places that sell knives in your town where you are, a lot of times it's just easier to just take them in and get them professionally sharpened. But the steel is something that you're going to use pretty much every day that you go into the kitchen, so you don't have to do it repeatedly on the same day. But let me go ahead and show you how one would use the steel, since you're going to be definitely needing to do that yourself. The safest way to do this when you're first starting out is to put a towel down on your cutting surface, put the steel down, and then you're going to take your knife firmly in your hand. You can hold it with your pinky finger and the next 2 fingers up to your middle finger around the grip, and then you can take your other 2 fingers and put them around the blade. This is often how I'm chopping as well. You're going to do even number of strokes on both sides, and you want to make sure that you have a smooth, even pressure. And you don't want to feel like you're digging into the steel, but it also doesn't want to be so light that it feels like you're not doing any sharpening. So go ahead and do a few strokes here. And what I'm doing when I do this is I'm making sure that I take the knife all the way from the base to the tip. And so you want to make sure that your steel is at least as long as your longest knife, otherwise you're not going to be able to use it properly. Some knife sets will come with very short ones because we're trying to save money, and it's not going to work for what you need it to. And slow and steady is fine as you're learning how to do this. You do the same thing with your paring knife, except this one you can just grip around the handle because there's not really room to grab onto it any other way. You use even number of strokes. And then one thing I also wanted to comment about when you're using your steel is that you want your knife to be at about a 20-degree angle. So like that, if you can see, I'll turn a couple different ways so you can see it in the camera. You don't want it more because you'll actually dull your knife. And if it's too narrow, you're not going to sharpen it very well. And how many strokes you need to do really depends on how, dull feeling your knives are. Again, it's not sharpening, it's honing the edge. But if they were already in pretty good shape, you just maybe need to do a few. You might need to do more if they're on the dull side. And then if you are an experienced person with knives and you want to do it more like chefs on TV, you can pick it up in your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed. I'm going to pick mine up in my left hand. And then you would do the same thing. You're going to do even number of strokes, but you're just going to go toward the steel. You want to make sure that you have this part here that you can run your knife into. It shouldn't be where if you have the knife against the steel that you should have any chance of cutting yourself. And so you do equal number of strokes on both sides, and you can do it much more quickly if you're used to doing this. So you can learn it as a party trick, impress your friends at home. And that's what we do to get started in the kitchen for the day. I will show you now how to chop something keeping your hands safe. I'll show you how to chop a pepper here. And I have my scraper to help scrape bits off the cutting board. We'll come back to why the scraper can be helpful in a second. All right, so main thing you want to think about doing with your hand is you want to make a claw. So what's really nice is these 2 knuckles here on your fingers make a really nice knife guard. So you can put your knife right up against those knuckles there. And as long as you're not lifting your knife up above your fingers, if the ends of your fingers are tucked under, there's no way to cut yourself. So see, there's no way to cut yourself like this. So that is a really hard motion for people just starting out cooking to do. You'll notice that there's this finger creep. They'll just start going out, fanning out. So whatever you can do, maybe tell a friend or family member, if you see my fingers going out, tell me to stop it and put them back under. It only takes a few sessions before that becomes a natural motion. It's just very unnatural when you start out. All right, so you can use those fingers that are tucked under as a claw to hold your food and anchor it to the cutting board. You want to make sure nothing is able to roll around too much. And as much as possible when you have something round, if you can make a flat side when you're cutting, so again, things aren't rolling around, that they can be more steady and be more safe for you, so you're less likely to slip. So I'm going to tuck my fingers under. I'm going to grab my knife again. For the chef's knife, I have an 8-inch chef's knife here, which is a good size for my hand. People that are just starting out with cooking may like a shorter one, like a 6-inch knife, to feel more confident. I feel like that makes it hard to chop bigger pieces of food. And so I think an 8-inch is a good starting place. There are also 10-inch or larger chef's knives. Those feel a little bit unwieldy for someone my size, but if you're a larger, taller person, it might be very comfortable for you. So I'm going to tuck my fingers under. I'm just going to slice off the top of the pepper. We won't have a lot of food waste. We'll use this for something else in a minute. And then I'm going to flip it over, cut the other end off, set that off to the side. Again, keeping my fingers as a claw. I'm going to slice into the pepper. And we're going to cut those seeds out. So now I'm just going to keep my knife flat along here. You always want to try and move your fingers away from where you're cutting. So as much as possible that you can be cutting away from your hand or your body, the better. So do that. Then you can rearrange things, pull off extra pieces. And then again, if you need to flip it around and cut the other way so you're cutting away from yourself, just do whatever you can to cut away from your body, especially when you're not used to your tools and environment. But even the best of chefs can slip and cut themselves. Now we have something again. We had a round thing that could roll around. Now we have a flat vegetable that we can slice more easily. We can tuck our fingers under, hold our knife, and do a julienne, which is just going about a 1/4 inch apart and making some little strips or slices. This is great for a stir fry or a salad. So we have those pieces right here. And then if we turn them sideways and line them all up, we can use our claw to hold them in place again and do a 1/4 inch that way. And then we're doing a dice is what that is, a 1/4 inch dice or small dice. So we have all these nice little 1/4 inch pieces of pepper, which would be good in some kind of composed salad or in a salsa, which we'll make in a future session here. And then this is going to make the nicest, cleanest dice and julienne, but most of us aren't going to waste the pepper. So if things aren't perfect, don't worry about it. But you do the kind of the same technique with the tops of your peppers if you wanted to preserve those pieces as well, using your claw to keep things out of the way. And okay, now I have some things on my cutting board. Maybe I want to move them out of the way. And I really encourage you not to scrape with the blade of your knife. So when you scrape with the blade of your knife, then you're going to dull the knife. And the duller the knife, the more likely you are to cut yourself, because then you can't be confident when you're chopping that a certain amount of pressure is going to result in a certain action with your knife. So you can either scrape with your hands, you can flip over your knife, use the part that you don't chop with, and that's a great scraper. Or again, you can go back to that little scraper device that I have. A bench scraper is what you call the metal ones. It's similar type of device that's just an inexpensive plastic one. And it's nice because you can get it up on there. You can move it over to a different bowl, put it into whatever recipe you're going to do, and take things from there. And then we'll clean as we go. So like I said, we'll use this for something later. So I get a dish and move all these things onto it. And then I go to chop my next ingredient. And again, I'd encourage you doing mise en place to do all your chopping, get everything prepared before you start cooking.